Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we got some big news today. Man, I'm on the wrong page here. Ubisoft apologizing to the Japanese for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and the media's playing dumb. They're like, it doesn't say why they're apologizing. Everybody knows why they're apologizing.
They do talk in circles.
Yeah,
it's funny. An apology adjacent. It's like an apology, but not really an apology.
Right. So we're going to talk about this because, yeah, they're not going to come out and admit that they got it wrong. But for all their talk of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Ubisoft has been accused by Japanese players, accused of cultural appropriation, because basically the Yasuke story was, as far as I can tell, mostly fictional, and it came from one white guy in Japan.
So the problem is that Asian people don't count. Don't you know that? When they say diversity, equity, inclusion, they mean usually like maybe sometimes Hispanic people, but most often Black people and women and lesbians.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. The Japanese are having they're having a field day taking Ubisoft to task. I do not think this game is going to sell well in Japan. If at all, maybe they'll decide not to release it in Japan. But the Yasuke thing is just one of many examples. They also got accused of plagiarizing a flag. They got accused of mistaking Chinese architecture for Japanese architecture, but just basically everything they could possibly get wrong. It's like, were any Japanese people actually involved in the creation of the game about feudal Japan? I mean,
yeah, you'd think somebody would have spoke up.
You think somebody would have, but this is kind of like Amazon Lord of the Rings, right? Like you kick out the Tolkien expert and you bring a bunch of fan fiction writers in, and this is what you get. So before you get to any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So I gotta catch Geeky up on the Yasuke debacle.
Okay.
So Japan is angry because it turns out that most of the data, the information, I'm not even going to call it data because it's fiction. Most of the information about Yasuke comes from one source. This is Thomas Lockely, who was a professor, a UK professor in Japan.
Yes, I do remember this. I was here. We did a video on that before, so I do remember that.
Right. And he published a book, and pretty much everything about this character can be attributed to his book, and they even busted this guy apparently editing his Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I remember saying that.
To his book, and even the Netflix anime they think borrows from this book. And did I mention that they're doing a Yasuke Black Samurai Broadway play now too?
Yes.
Yeah. So all of this stems from this one source, and people have looked at it and they're like, yeah, there were just a couple of lines about this guy, and he took it and he even admits he extrapolated upon it, and he made some assumptions, but Japanese people are claiming is almost entirely a work of fiction by a white author.
So basically, to sum it up, because you hear these journalists screaming about it, it would be like if you went to, another, what did I say, it was from Mozambique or whatever, the character. It'd be like if a white guy went to Mozambique, there was like one sentence about a character who was, white or Asian or something, wrote a whole story about, how this person was this huge big deal, said it was, kept citing himself and setting it up as if it was fact. And then when the people there got mad because they felt it was cultural appropriation and they didn't feel it wasn't correct, historically accurate, they're all, they're just racist.
Yeah. So now they have to apologize. But yeah, like you said, it's a non-apology.
It really is a non-apology.
So we're going to read that, and then we're going to go out and look at the Japanese reaction to it, which is not good. I was going through Twitter.
I didn't even get a chance to check
that.
The Japanese are not having it. I told you about this because I knew about this, but I didn't see about their reaction.
They tweeted it in Japanese, and the Japanese are like, "Yeah, you're a bunch of liars."
This is going to be great. Okay, looking forward to it.
So much for DEI, right? So one of four coming from Ubisoft. To our esteemed Japanese community, a message from the Assassin's Creed Shadows development team. First, we want to express our heartfelt thanks for all your support for the Assassin's Creed series, which is now has its own history spanning 20 years.
Okay.
Well, there's a time for everything, right?
Well, people support it, so thank you for the past. Okay, cool. So far, so good.
Over this time, we have explored various settings, time periods, and characters from an assassin during the Third Crusade to a Viking in the 9th century England and countless more. For many of our team...
But was the Viking Asian?
I don't know. For many of our team, creating an Assassin's Creed game set in feudal Japan has been a long-cherished dream.
So wait, it's a long-cherished dream for us to set this game in feudal Japan, but we're not going to actually
have a Japanese samurai?
Right. Yeah. Yes, right.
Yeah. Since the announcement of Assassin's Creed Shadows, we have received many positive reactions.
Where?
But also some criticism, including from you, our Japanese players.
Just a little bit, guys.
Just a little bit. We share your passion for history and deeply respect your care for the historical and cultural integrity of your rich heritage.
We share your passion and your historical and cultural integrity. Okay.
We would like to address a few points to clarify our intentions. Okay. Overall authenticity efforts. We have put significant efforts into ensuring an immersive and respectful representation of feudal Japan.
Okay, well, I think they're arguing. Yeah.
Japan disagrees. They disagree. However, our intention has never been to present any of our Assassin's Creed games, including Assassin's Creed Shadows, as factual representations of history or historical characters.
They just double talked. We put significant effort to ensuring its respectful representation. But, just so you know, it's just a game. And we aren't meaning it to be, actually feudal Japan with real feudal Japan history. Which one is it?
I know,
you literally talked out of both sides of your mouth in those two paragraphs.
They think that people from Ubisoft were involved in editing Wikipedia to link to Lockely's own edits about Yasuke, yeah, he was like a real dude. And he might have been.
No one's saying he's not a real dude.
He might have been.
What we're saying is,
was he a samurai? Very unlikely.
Yeah, we don't know. But beyond that, it's like you're using another culture. And you're supposed to be representing that other culture accurately, okay? It's like when they did with Cleopatra. Yes. And the people that are, the Egyptians and even some of the Greeks were really ticked off about it because they're like, you're not representing Cleopatra accurately. That's our history, our culture. It's important to us. Can you please represent it accurately? And that's what they're mad about because they're like, basically, you're doing a game in feudal Japan, and instead of making it based on feudal Japanese characters, people would know. You found one obscure black guy to make it about because we all know why.
Yes.
We all know why. You can sit there and say it's not why the cows come home. We all know why.
Asian people are not diverse enough in currint year.
You probably could have found a woman to base it on even that.
Well, they have a female ninja, but they're
would have made more sense and been culturally accurate.
Right.
So
yeah, there is no Asian male lead, even though that was the.
So is that the main character or is that just one of the characters?
One of two. The other is a woman. So we have a woman and a black guy. Because in feudal Japan, that was very, very common for women and black men to fight. Yes.
That's right. Okay.
Instead, we aim to spark curiosity and encourage players to explore and learn more about the historical setting we get inspired by.
Wait, okay,
They did. And they found out Lockely was full of shit.
Now you're mad about it.
And now you're mad about it.
You're doing immersive and respectful representation of feudal Japan. And we want people to go explore and learn more about the historical settings and the culture by putting in people that would not be culturally accurate to that setting. Totally. You nailed it.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is first and foremost designed to be an entertaining video game that tells a compelling historical fiction set in feudal Japan.
Which is it? You're putting respectful representation or historical fiction. They argue, which one?
Our team extensively collaborated with external consultants, historians, researchers, Thomas Lockely, and internal teams at Ubisoft Japan to inform our creative choices.
Give us a list of who you collaborated with. Why don't you give the Japanese people a list of who those are so they can see whether they're vetted properly or not?
Despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials have caused concern within the Japanese community. For this, we sincerely apologize. All game footage presented so far is in development, and the game will keep evolving until launch.
We're going to change as much as we can before it launches. Where have you heard that before? They won't admit it usually, but where have you seen that before? Master's Universe.
Based on the constructive criticism we have received, we will continue our efforts until we put this game into your hands and beyond. I don't think it's going to get into that. I don't think the Japanese are going to have it. I don't think they're going to play it. We also want to clarify that while we have been consulting with many people throughout the development process, they are in no way responsible for the decisions that are taken by the creative teams in the interest of gameplay and entertainment.
We know who they're talking. Yeah, we're talking about Lockely.
Oh, yeah. Consequently, we respectfully request that any criticism not be directed at our collaborators, both internal and external.
Don't call them out for making up shit, basically.
Right. Creative liberties and historical inspirations. While we strive for authenticity in everything we do.
We strive for authenticity, but it's just a game. It's just it's fiction. Then why strive for authenticity at all? If you're just going to say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's not real anyway, then why bother? Why bother saying you're striving for authenticity then?
Right.
You clearly aren't.
Assassin's Creed games are works of fiction inspired by real historical events and figures. Okay.
This is all like double talk the whole way.
From its inception, the series has taken creative licenses and incorporated fantasy elements to craft engaging and immersive experiences.
Okay, yeah, fantasy elements. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But that's not the question here. That's not what's up for debate.
The representation of Yasuke in our game is an illustration of this. His unique and mysterious life
that no one really knows anything about
made him an ideal candidate to tell an Assassin's Creed story with the setting of feudal Japan's backdrop.
No. Let me rephrase this for you. His skin tone and because of DEI mandates made it an ideal candidate for tell Assassin's Creed story with the setting of feudal Japan as a backdrop. Because why would you have characters in feudal Japan? Why would you have characters that weren't Japanese?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest. Were there characters that weren't Japanese probably around? Yes. Is that the smart way to go when you're trying to do a historically accurate game that's representative of feudal Japan? Hell no.
Well, Yasuke is depicted as a samurai in Assassin's Creed Shadows. We acknowledge that this is a matter of debate and discussion. We have woven this carefully into our narrative.
Then why do it?
We've woven this carefully into our narrative with our other lead character.
Narrative's about right.
Japanese shinobi, the woman, who is equally important in the game. Our dual protagonists provide players with different gameplay styles.
So you can choose the woman or the black guy in feudal Japan.
But you can't be the Japanese man.
For authenticity, guys. Authenticity. And remember, it's just a game that we really tried hard to make it look like feudal Japan. Why use feudal Japan at all then?
Yeah, I know, right? God, we greatly value your feedback and encourage you to continue sharing your thoughts respectfully. While we understand that meeting everyone's expectations is very difficult, we sincerely hope when Assassin's Creed Shadows launches on November 15th, players in Japan and around the world will appreciate the dedication, effort, and passion we poured into it.
Okay, but look, here's my thing. It's not like, it doesn't matter what I say anyway, because I'm not Japanese. That's not my representation. So it really doesn't matter what I say. But the thing is, you're supposedly basing it on Japan, on and their history, and you're saying you did all this research to make it as authentic as possible. And I understand games are games, and they're not going to have some of the fantastical elements in the real history of the country and all that. And I get that. You can take creative license with some liberties with it. But the target demographic is pissed. And they're diverse too.
Well, let's look at the comments. So they reposted this in Japanese on Twitter, and there are quite a few Japanese Twitter users. And the top comment, thanks to your company, I was able to become aware of the historical changes being made by the forces of globalization against Japan. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And they go on.
What's this other one? Japan has been subject to various forms of interference from globalists in the past, but this time, thanks to Thomas Lockely, it has come to the surface in an easy to understand way. We are grateful for that.
Grateful for Thomas Lockely. Yes, Thomas Lockely has alerted Japan to the globalist agenda. This one I thought was interesting. They said, I think the story about Yasuke should be considered fiction based on Yasuke. The issue of historical retelling is no longer an Ubi issue, but a Lockely issue. Mm-hmm. However, Yasuke is no longer the problem. The plagiarism of materials from manga, organizations, and cultural heritage sites, the misinterpretation of Japanese history, and the misinterpretation of Japanese as Chinese, that would be the architecture, among other things, show disregard for Japan.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're saying we researched this heavily, and they were using Chinese architecture for feudal Japan.
Yeah, now this is interesting. They're talking about Ghost of Tsushima, which was a Western developed game, right? Mm-hmm. That came out a couple of years ago. They said, apologize for comparing it to other games, but Ghost of Tsushima is fiction, and it had some historical revisions, but it does have a definite respect for Japanese culture. So they're saying that Ghost of Tsushima was more reverent of Japan than Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed game. And I've heard this from other Japanese players. They said that they actually enjoy the game quite a bit, and it was developed by a Western company. But they're not.
Did research.
Yeah, they actually did some research. They said there were some liberties taken, obviously, but they said it was more reverential of Japanese culture than this is. I agree. Thomas Lockely exaggerates a lot to make the story more interesting, they said, and there's no historical evidence that the events actually happened. His portrayal differs from historical fact in many ways, and I feel that lacks respect for Japanese culture. This is about DEI. This is about Western DEI mandates. They were like, oh, hot damn, we have a black samurai who literally, so you're telling me all these Japanese scholars, all these centuries, barely mention this guy. One English dude shows up and is like, oh my God, there's enough here for a whole book.
And he knows all about it.
And he knows all about this guy.
The English guy. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And they're like, so much reverential. We developed. We did all this research. We went through all these people, and it's like you can't get the culture right. You can't get the architecture right. You can't get the historical facts right. And while I get it's a game, it is at the end of the day it is a game. But you're saying you're authentically representing feudal Japan when you are not, and not just because of the character.
Wow, this one. I think we should strongly demand that Ubisoft change the name Yasuke and not use it at all. It's now clear that Thomas Lockely is the root of all evil. And
this is what people from Japan think.
Wow. But in the current situation where most people still debate whether Yasuke is a samurai or not, changing the name is the easiest and most realistic way to clearly show it's fiction.
That's true. Because then you can say, well, it's not based on, it's a fictional version of feudal Japan. I think that they might be a little more. Yeah, but then again, they have the architecture, it's wrong and everything else, and there's lots of other inconsistencies.
Yeah, they said it wasn't just Yasuke. It says the unauthorized use of cultural properties and existing copyright material. Right. The one historical reenactment group, their flag was taken. I mean, they were just stepping in it. And this is, I 99.9% certain the reason they're stepping in it is because of their DEI people, racing.
Okay. Why the fuck else would you take a character like this character and make a game about feudal Japan and make the leads a black guy and a woman? Why would you? Let's not even try to pretend it's about something else, because it's clearly not.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have no problem with representation and stuff in games and stuff. I don't care if it was another game or if the person said just change the name to Yasuke or whatever. Okay, fine, whatever. My issue is the fact that it's clearly blatantly what they did. And then they're trying to gaslight everyone. And then they're talking about respect and all the research they did when they clearly didn't, because they didn't even have the architecture right. They were swiping people's stuff. Yeah. According to these people.
They're basically saying this isn't far enough. You need to not make an excuse. Just clearly declare on the website the game is fiction.
Yeah, just say it wasn't, but they're not. Somebody in a comment, but later you scroll down, but somebody else said in a comment that the problem is now a lot of people think this is historical fact because the way the game's being presented and the way they're acting, people are thinking that, in the West are thinking that this guy actually existed. I'm not saying he didn't exist, he did exist, but you know what I'm saying? We don't know what that this is
a lot of conjecture.
They said
a lot of conjecture. And it does feel like a lot of Japanese are calling out Lockely and saying it's basically his OC. Basically, Yasuke became his OC. And this dude's like, they're using his stuff for anime. They're using it for a Broadway play. And literally, like, this guy shows up like 5 years ago and this character materializes out of thin air. Right? Mm-hmm. Like,
it's revisionist history. They're trying to revise history, but it's not enough to revise their own history. Now I think they have the right to revise other people's history. And I think that's why these people are getting upset, like with the Cleopatra situation, like with this. Other countries don't want you revising their history. They want people taught what it was so that even if you're not from their country, you understand and respect what happened historically.
So this is coming from Metro, which is a very far left publication.
Oh, let me guess. You're all a bunch of trolls.
Yeah. Well, there's one person that said
even though you're Japanese,
he was probably a samurai. Ubisoft apologizes to Japanese fans for Assassin's Creed Shadow, but doesn't say why. They're getting all kinds of blowback.
It doesn't say why. They totally, they didn't express it. Yeah, they pretty much said why.
They pretty much said it. They danced around the issue. They said there was a petition from Japanese fans calling for the game to be canceled. It was. They're
not going to cancel it.
They're not going to cancel it. It said the original petition never mentioned him by name, but most of the argument is around Yasuke, who is a real historical figure.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, and whose samurai status Ubisoft now suggests is a matter of debate and discussion.
Japan suggests it's a matter of debate and discussion.
So a Japanese scholar
we found one guy
on Twitter, this is the only guy I've seen, recently pointed out.
People said he was a real person.
Right, let's see what this guy said. Who is this guy? This is... he's
going to get his ass roasted, but go ahead.
39,000, let's see here. He said, it does seem there are very few historical documents about him. There's no doubt that he was a quote-unquote samurai, regardless of one's social status. If one's master promoted one to the rank of quote-unquote samurai, it could become one in medieval warring state society. I can say this is because Nobunaga gave him a stipend, he gave him a house. So he's saying, yeah, he could...
Technically, he could
he
was
could
given
be.
the stuff to be a samurai, but Japan doesn't acknowledge it, basically.
Right. Yeah, but and it's not just that. People said they're not even listening to what is being said. It's not just the Yasuke debacle. It's the fact that you're passing off Chinese architecture as Japanese architecture. It's the fact that you stole a flag from a reenactment group. It's the fact.
And then the woman character. She's the inauthentic one. Ninjas are primarily spies and portrayed in shadows seem to be based purely on a romanticized pop culture view of them rather than historical sources.
Oh, God.
I agree. I don't think either one should be in the game personally, but there you go.
Yeah, they're just like, what are they apologizing
fiction.
for? Why? Whoa, there's some spicy ads on here. What are you apologizing for?
Okay.
What are you apologizing for? You have nothing to apologize for. You know what they're going to have to apologize for? I'm going to tell you what they're going to have to apologize for. They're going to have to apologize for their stock price, which is plummeted, and they're going to have to apologize to investors when the game falls flat in sales.
Course. Here we go. Oh, there's malicious and personal attacks against the development team. Let me guess. There's tweets and there's death threats and it's all the alt-right Yahtzees that are Japanese.
All the Japanese white supremacists. Because that's the story. And then Lockely went AWOL. He scrubbed his social media, and it all comes from him. I mean, this whole and again, all they had to do originally was say, hey, this is a work of fiction, but they tripled down that this is a historical fact. Because people
That's just it. They've just been but it's also weird. Make him one of the characters and make it. Why couldn't you just use the lead character as a Japanese samurai?
I would have made,
I don't think people would have been upset then. They would have been okay, no problem.
Have 3 leads. It would have made more sense because most people are going to want to play as a Japanese samurai.
In feudal Japan.
And then also have, Yasuke is another character, and this ninja, she's another character, but the main character is this Japanese guy, and we're going to try to give this game as much TLC, but for diversity and inclusion reasons, we're going to make these other characters playable as well. That's all you got to do. And it's not just that Yasuke's a samurai, he's gay now too. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. Yes.
He's gay too, because you can't just be one thing. You can't just be a black guy. No, you got to be a gay black guy.
He's a gay samurai in feudal Japan.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's in a wheelchair too.
No, I don't think so. It's actually a woman.
It's actually, I'm pretty sure he's trans and he's in a wheelchair too. The wheelchair's got little spikes on it, can go up walls.
The female character.
The female character's trans?
Yeah,
probably.
No, I don't know that.
Probably. Because you can't just have one thing. You gotta have DEI.
This is about DEI. And I mean, I don't like to bag on that because my opinions on DEI if you watch the thing. I think DEI has done more harm than
absolutely.
good. I think it's wrong. I think a lot of people who are diverse are getting treated like shit over DEI. I think it had the complete opposite effect of what you intended. But make no mistake, the choices made here were all about mandates and DEI shit. And the fact that they didn't even do the research, it wasn't even that. They're going to argue, well, it was a real character. Okay, fine. Then why do you have Chinese architecture listed as feudal Japanese architecture? Right. You didn't do jack shit diligence on this at all, it seems like. Anyway,
this is I'm
not gonna play it. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me either. It just reminds me of Futurama and their version of history. It's all everything's just wrong. Everything's just wrong. So we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.